The writer in Genesis, first of all, shows us how Joseph came to be, second only to the Pharaoh in the land of Egypt. As I have said the last time, I think that this period probably falls into the Hyksos period, the Asiatic people, that contributed a couple of dynasties to Egypt. And so Joseph may well have found the acceptance that he did in the land of Egypt because the Asiatic people would have looked upon him more favorably than the native Egyptians would have. But at any rate, Joseph becomes second only to the Pharaoh in the land of Egypt. Now, what the writer of the biblical text does in chapter 42 is to, I think it is, yes, chapter 42, is to take us back to Joseph, or to Jacob rather, and the 12 sons in the land of Canaan. We've seen now how Joseph came to be the ruler in Egypt. Now we look at, in chapter 42, what every child has looked at who has studied about Joseph in the land of Egypt. And Joseph is an easy subject to make, isn't it, for children especially, because it's easy to understand. We can relate it to brothers and sisters in our own family, and it's fairly clear in the Bible what is being spoken of. Well, Jacob in the land of Canaan soon enough becomes aware that there is a famine in the whole land. The land of Egypt has passed the 7 years of plenty. They are on, as you read on through this, they are in the second year of the time of famine. And the famine has spread up to the land of Canaan. There is no rain in the land. The overflowing of the Nile and the rain in the land of Canaan would occasionally be the same period of time. And so Jacob and his family are at the point of starvation. Of course, he has 10 of his children. He has 11 of them, I guess, still with him now. But he sends 10 of them down to the land of Egypt to try to buy some grain so that they all can live. In the ancient world, there were, and in our world, there are many people who starve to death, who simply don't have enough food to eat. And Jacob and his family were facing that situation. Now, of course, he's lost Joseph. As far as Jacob is concerned, Joseph is dead. The brothers have brought back the coat, the long coat, and they have put blood of a goat on it and let Jacob draw his own conclusions. And so he assumes that his son, his oldest son by Rachel, is dead, and Rachel herself is dead. And so Jacob says to 10 of his sons, he keeps back Benjamin, the youngest son of Rachel. So Joseph is dead. He doesn't want Benjamin to be lost. And so he sends 10 of his sons down to the land of Egypt to buy grain. Now, when they get to Egypt, they, of course, do not recognize. Presumably, they were somewhere in the Delta area. Now, that presents something of a historical problem because the Hyksos, by and large, ruled from the southern part of Egypt up the Nile River. And so, but possibly Joseph is made the ruler so that he can stay in the Delta area, while the Pharaoh, the number one man, can stay down in the area of what the modern city is Luxor, the Valley of the Kings. That's down in the southern part of Egypt, but it is up the river. I'm not sure which I said before, but at any rate, Luxor and the Valley of the Kings, you have to travel south, but it's up the river. And so when Jacob's sons, the 10 sons, come to the land of Egypt, the area of the Delta, they come on Joseph. Joseph is the chief man in that area. The Pharaoh is not around. And he recognizes them. Now, it would be easy to understand why he would. There were 10 of them. He would expect 10 brothers. And so he sells them some food from the land of Egypt. And he asks them about their father. Is the old man well? Tell me about your family. And so they mention that they have a father back home and a younger brother. Well, Joseph, of course, wonders about the older brother, Benjamin, the younger brother, the youngest of Jacob's sons. Joseph is concerned about him, I suspect, because he knows that he, a child of Rachel, that the 10 brothers have sacrificed him. And so, but the brothers tell Joseph about the old man who is back in the land of Canaan and about their younger brother Benjamin who is there. And they buy the food. But Joseph, the Bible says, puts the purchase price in the neck of every man's sack. And so when they were down the road a ways, one of the brothers, looking for some food for his animals, discovers that the money for the grain that they have bought is in the sack that he is taking back to Canaan. And then all the other brothers look, and all of them have had their money returned. Joseph, before they leave Joseph tells them, I don't want to see your face again unless Benjamin, your younger brother, is with you. That presents a problem, because when the brothers brought back all the grain that they could buy, but eventually that grain ran out in the land of Canaan, and so they have to go back to buy some more. The brothers say, we'll go back, but Benjamin is going to have to be with us. And Jacob says, no way, he's not going. He may not have used the same phrase that teenagers use today, but it was on that order. Jacob said, I will not send Benjamin with you. I've lost one of Rachel's children already, and I'm not going to risk the death of the youngest. And the brothers say, well, without him, that man in Egypt was really serious. And he said he didn't want to see us again. When you remember in that period of time that a man like Joseph would have had absolutely the power of life and death over any Asiatics that came to the land of Egypt to buy food. And so they said, we are not going without Benjamin. And Jacob said, I'm not sending Benjamin. And so they were at a standoff for a time. But eventually it came to the point that they were all going to starve. And so Jacob comes to them again and says, I want you to go down to the land of Egypt and to buy some food. And they said, we will go, but Benjamin has to go with us. Reuben at first said, take my sons. He said, if we don't bring Benjamin back, you can kill my 2 sons. Jacob said, I am not sending him. Well, eventually Jacob gets to the point where the whole family is going to starve to death. And I expect that the family included far more than the 2 wives that he has left, or the 3 wives, and the son and his sons. He probably had herdsmen, slaves that he had picked up through the years. He has a large family. Everybody is going to die unless he sends his sons back to the land of Egypt to buy food. And so he gets together a special gift for Joseph. Now, I remember especially, at least in the New American Standard Version, that pistachio nuts are mentioned. He could have turned my head with some pistachio nuts. I love to eat them. But he included the best of the land of Canaan and gave them as a special gift to Joseph himself. And so he agrees to have Benjamin accompany them. And when they come back to the land of Egypt, Joseph is thrilled to see Benjamin. I expect that he thought that something may have happened to him, that he thought that the 10 brothers might have killed Benjamin like they killed or tried to kill him. Reuben, of course, reminds them, I told you so. I told you shouldn't have killed him. If we had kept him alive, Joseph, everything would have been fine. And so Reuben has to get in his. Reuben remembers the oldest son, and so he reminds the brothers how they had they had planned to kill Joseph, and how he had stood up. Remember, he was going to come back to the pit and draw Joseph out. He was going to rescue him. But Joseph was sold into slavery before he had a chance. And so the brothers, when they come into the presence of Joseph with Benjamin in tow, Benjamin is thrilled at it all. He has a great banquet for them. And the brothers are afraid. The money has been put back into their sacks. And so they explained to Joseph how that they had not intended to steal anything, but that somebody had put the money in their sacks, but it wasn't them. They explained the problems to the chief steward of Joseph, and he said to them, don't worry, everything will be all right. It reminds me of when I was in graduate school and I was studying Aramaic, and I didn't think that I was getting very far with it. And I went to the teacher once and I said, I don't think that I can get this. I think I should put it off until I could give more attention to the Aramaic. And he patted me on the shoulder and said, don't worry. Sure, he didn't need to worry. I needed to worry. Well, the steward of Joseph said to the brothers, you don't need to be concerned. Everything will work out all right. And so when they had a banquet, I can remember, at least as a child studying in a Bible class, when he put portions before everyone, he gave 5 times as much to Benjamin. That was, Benjamin, of course, would have been his only full brother, would have been the only full brother. His mother was Rachel and his father was Jacob. And so Joseph gave 5 times as much. He must have been a big little boy, to eat 5 times as much as the rest of them. But everybody ate. It goes on to say everybody ate to his heart's content. And they set out for the land of Canaan again. But before they went, Joseph said, leave one of your brothers here. First he wanted Benjamin to stay there. And the brothers said, we can't leave Benjamin. The old man will die if we come home without Benjamin. And so Joseph finally relents, and he keeps Simeon, the second of Jacob's sons. And so Simeon stays as a prisoner, a slave in the land of Egypt. When they set out, it's not long until Joseph has his men on them, with them. And he wants to search all of their grain sacks. Joseph tells his steward, if you find my silver cup in the sack of anyone, that person is to be retained. Well, of course, he knew where the silver cup had been placed. in the sack of Benjamin. And so Benjamin, he is going to bring Benjamin back. The 10 brothers say, if Benjamin goes, we all go. And so all of them come back to Joseph. Judah makes a speech, which is one of the most moving speeches in the book of Genesis. He says, he rehearses for Joseph how when they had come the first time, in all innocence, they had said, our father is at home and we have a younger brother. He stayed with his father. And now he says, the old man, it's the only child of his favored wife, Rachel, that he has. The oldest one is dead. There are only 2 sons. And Judah says, if we don't bring him back, we may as well not go back ourselves. We don't want to see our father die. And so Joseph is moved to tears and finally reveals himself to the 10 brothers. And they are sent back to the land of Canaan, and all of them come together to live in the land of Egypt. And so, as I've said before, the book of Genesis, what the book is really about, what it is about, is how the family of Jacob, the children of Israel, remember his name is Israel. And so the children of Israel now come to be permanent residents in the land of Canaan. I expect that the reason that the family were able to live there is because it was somewhere during the Exile period. And when the Bible says that a new Pharaoh arose that knew not Joseph, as it begins the book of Exodus, my suspicion is that a new Pharaoh had come to the throne. And so it was one Pharaoh that had dealt with Joseph, but another Pharaoh now that had come to the throne, and a new dynasty of kings had come in. Probably not just a new Pharaoh, but a new dynasty of pharaohs. And so the last part of Genesis is about Joseph or Jacob's blessing his sons. He spends more time with Judah. I've mentioned that before, but Judah is the 4th son, not the firstborn, even of Leah. He is not the firstborn. But there are special considerations. Reuben, remember, took forcefully his father's concubine. And the other 2, Simeon and Levi, had killed the men of Shechem whenever they had when they were going to be circumcised, so that the sister of Simeon and Levi would be taken as his wife, and there would be a union of tribes. And of course the people of Israel, Jacob in particular, would not have that. And so all of the men of the city were killed. And so it may be that that's why that they are not included, that they don't have the rights of the firstborn. There is nowhere that it is said in Genesis, or anywhere else, that Jacob or that Judah was given special consideration because he had the rights of the firstborn. The Bible nowhere says that. But more space is given to Judah than any other. Now, of course, David came through the tribe of Judah, and eventually Jesus came through the tribe of Judah. In the New Testament, there are Jews and there are Levites. Barnabas and others that had the priesthood were Levites. And and there is the one old woman who is from the tribe of Asher. But other than that, the 12 tribes no longer seem, and Judah, of course, many of the people of the land of Canaan had come back from Babylon, and so were of the tribe of Judah. But the Jews had been scattered all over the world. And so much of the last part of Genesis is the blessing that Jacob gives, and Jacob leaves his wishes that he be taken back to his father's burial place. Remember, in the cave of Machpelah, and the land that had been purchased from a Hittite, Ephraim the Hittite. And so in Jacob is taken back there. When he dies, there's a great funeral procession, and the Pharaoh is still there that has appointed Joseph, and so Jacob is taken back to the land of Egypt, where he is given a great burial. Joseph asked for a different place. Joseph asked to be buried in the area of Shechem. Now remember, Joseph had 2 sons. The order was Manasseh and Ephraim. Ephraim is the second son, but he gets the birthright. I don't know why. He is something, God chooses him. So Ephraim is has the area of Shechem that is in the tribe of Ephraim. And so Joseph asked to be buried on a plot of ground that they had purchased, that he and the brothers had purchased, or not himself, but that the tribe had purchased from the people of Shechem. And so there, and in the New Testament that comes up, remember, there's the well of Jacob, where the people of Samaria are, or the Samaritan woman who comes out to see Jesus in John chapter 4. But Joseph asked to be taken back there and burial. And it's interesting that the last verse in the book of Joshua, I want to read that. It's in Joshua, Judges, Joshua. Right at the end of the book, the Bible says, beginning with verse 32 in the last chapter, chapter 24. Now they buried the bones of Joseph, which the sons of Israel had brought up from Egypt, at Shechem in the piece of ground which Jacob had bought from the sons of Hamor, the father of Shechem, for 100 pieces of money, it says in my translation, of silver. Silver was money, not gold particularly, but silver. And they became the inheritance of Joseph's sons. And so Joseph is taken back to the land of Egypt, where he is buried. But we'll move on from there next week. Thank you for your good attention. It's good to be with you today. I'll see you, many of you, tomorrow.